everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. This is Cassie with Virtual IT. Today, we'll be going over automating simple processes with Power Automate, building better handoffs using Teams planners, and practical examples of SharePoint and Forms integrations. We will be monitoring the question section as well. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to let us know. And we'll also be recording this and it will be available on our website in the next week or so. If you have any questions, please leave them for us and I'll pass it over to John.
Great. Thanks, Cassie. Appreciate the intro. Hopefully everybody can hear me as well. Today, we're kind of wrapping up this short series from clarity to action. Today, we'll be building and automating workflows in Microsoft 365. And as mentioned, this is a little bit, there's going to be some review. I'll talk about some of the things that were mentioned and tools used in the previous webinars leading up to this. And then we're actually going to put them into practice. And I have a lot of examples. Certainly, Power Automate is, although it's a no-code, low-code thing, sometimes it takes a little time and some troubleshooting. So what I've done is tried to make it a little easier for all of us. And I've taken some screenshots, which I'll present to you, and I've got some real examples. We'll be taking forms, a plan and planner, using Teams and email, and actually connecting those to Power Automate. So, got some live and some set up just in case the live thing doesn't work, so we should be good to go. But welcome. My name's John. I love working with Virtual IT and everybody here, so thanks for attending, and we definitely have a recording for you to check out because this is cool stuff, but I have a feeling you're going to want to watch it again. So some of the things we'll talk about, again, a little bit of a lead up as to why, because there is a payoff for this. This is something that once you get it set up is going to reduce that breakdown. Really, why do things feel chaotic? We have so many tools inside of the, let's say, Microsoft 365 toolkit, plus if you're using any other, which you likely are, other third-party apps, there's a lot. And I'm not going to suggest more tools. I'm going to suggest use the tools that you already have, but treat Power Automate kind of like glue and bring them all together. Sure, Teams does that. In fact, I'm really recommending leaning on Teams pretty hard, and I'll show you why and how. So we've mapped a simple workflow, and you can certainly check out the recordings. But intake, work, visibility, and then done. Wrap it up, put a bow on it. Perfect. This is what we want. We want that workflow to be, we get the data, somebody asks, or in this case, we're going to have a service request. I figured somebody's always asking for something from us or a department. I mean, that's how it works. So having some sort of a request mapped and automated like this might be something you can apply to what you're doing. And you can scale it up or scale it down as well. But again, intake, you get the data, you perform the work, whatever it might be. It's visible if you're collaborating with others. That could be the customer, internal or external facing. And then done. Are we tracking it? Does this make sense? And the idea is really, before you even choose the apps, design what you want it to do. And I think you're going to find that the Microsoft 365 tools exist, and they're pretty handy. Files, obviously, we can attach files, and we are mostly going to store these files in a SharePoint document library that's shared, like for a Teams channel, let's say. Microsoft Forms, awesome app. You'll find Microsoft Forms is a lot more than just quizzes and surveys. Forms can be used for requests. A lot of people do. Somebody wants to request a SharePoint site or request a new team be created or group. Anything. Certainly, it's not just days off and that kind of request too, although it can be. So again, the idea is we're going to use Forms to bring that data in. That's the intake part. And then Planner and Loop, those are other apps that you can use in Microsoft 365. And Planner is like if you do any type of project management, it's not the app Project by Microsoft. That's a very fancy project manager app. Planner is more for anybody who's got to manage a project or a task or something as a group. So this is where we can track group activities. And what this means when we work with the Microsoft 365 group is that everyone's going to have permission to the thing, so it's way more visible. So we'll go into what each tool does, what it doesn't, but also how we can have that accountability and that transparency built in to the workflow, and that just makes things way better. So connecting the steps. Where does Power Automate fit in? What's worth actually automating? And there are a lot of great templates that are in Power Automate, and that's one of the things I'm pushing today or during this series too, is use the templates. I mean, so many people are contributing, the community, if you will, to Power Automate with different flows, and you can see how many people are actually using them. It's kind of interactive in that way. But those templates are very good, and then you can modify them and stuff if you want. Making it stick. This is important. If you're building this and you're spending a lot of time putting this together and mapping it and building it and identifying it, small habits are going to reduce clutter in the environment. But when I say making it stick, I also mean user adoption. You want people to actually use this. Yes, you can do manual processes, automation. This is just going to allow for consistency throughout. So we have kind of mapped through this, but common productivity challenges are going to be overwhelm, scattered tasks, like too much stuff. It's all over the place. Maybe your calendar is packed full. You're putting all these group things on your personal calendar, and you don't need to do that. It does cost a lot, more than just money. Poor planning. It can be incredibly stressful to not know if things are being completed. Certainly, is it visible during the process? A lot of times people aren't panicking about that. But if you know if it's even, do you know it's even completed? Did we meet the deadline? Are we tracking this even? Did it slip between the cracks? These are the important things that can be costly and risky. So I didn't set up a formal poll for this, but feel free to type in the question panel and just curious, or at least to think, what's your biggest weekly planning struggle? For me, I'll give an example for myself in real life. If I do a webinar or something like this, or some consulting or something that has to do with software and training, I need to use Planner to keep track of stuff because I've got other people who want to see the outcome. Their involvement is there. We want to track and trace everything. Then I'm covered and everybody's happy. So the struggle, though, is actually getting everyone involved and getting that stickiness so that we can finally hit that complete. And that's super satisfying when that happens. But that's the biggest struggle, is getting everyone involved just for that one. We'll pull it off, but let's just say a video recording. I want to get that out in time. I don't want people to wait. So sending little reminders, gentle nudges, you can build that all in. That's going to save clicks, emails, frustration, and sometimes I need a reminder. It can be really helpful to just have that computer reminder. So what do we already have? Let's not reinvent anything. We have a Microsoft 365 group, and that is largely, that's what most of the activities that we're doing as a group at work are revolving around this. It's a membership service. If you're a member of a team in Teams, you're part of a Microsoft 365 group. And every plan and planner is associated with a group. Every SharePoint team site is associated with a group. You can have forms associated with the groups. It's basically this all-access backstage pass of apps and services. And it makes the permissions way easier because all right, these people are already connected as a group. We've got this set of resources that already exist. How am I going to tap into that and make it easier for myself? So, quick review. The reason we would use a group. And I'm starting here because I would really use Teams. Teams and Microsoft 365 groups are very much related. It used to be called Azure AD or Active Directory, and you'll hear Microsoft Entra ID. The only reason I'm putting that here is to say, yep, it's officially that you are officially signed in. So once you're signed in, you get the membership, all the permissions are built in, and then you can easily add or remove users or people from that group. So the group stays the same, the group has the permissions, and we're just having this nice security boundary because people are coming in and out. And just knowing that is built into your automation way safer. With the group, you get a SharePoint team site, so that means you get a library where you can put documents. In this case, what I'm using today is an Excel document that has the results of the form that people fill out, because that's going to be synced, which is pretty handy. Sometimes people want Excel. Other times people don't love Excel. They want to find it another way. So you've got choices and everything is synced. Again, just making it easier. If you want to access your SharePoint team site inside of Teams, we're going to set that up. We've mapped that already actually as tabs inside of a channel. So even though you get a SharePoint team site with a Microsoft 365 group, you don't have to go out to the proper SharePoint site. You don't. You can use it inside of Teams and the files are shared tab. And then we still have all the benefits of it. They are just, SharePoint's the foundation of it. Teams is the way to look at it. It's like served up on Teams as a viewer. We have things like version history. If somebody put a request in twice, or something like that, we can always see that. We're not going to have multiple versions, and all the permissions are tied to that group. So Teams is optional when you create a Microsoft 365 group, but just if anybody attending or listening or watching this recording later is thinking, oh, I have this SharePoint site already with a bunch of our service requests, we should use that. And we've got this Microsoft 365 group. Awesome. Just make sure that if it already exists, that it is a Teams enabled site. And you'll know that. I'll show you. You can see a little Teams icon on the SharePoint site. But I'm going to back it up for a sec. If a group is created, then you have the option to create teams, to create a team in Teams. But it automatically gets a SharePoint site. And if you want that team workspace with the channels and the chats and the tabs, go for it. But remember, that group is going to give you all this other stuff too that we're using. And you need to make sure that you're not being redundant. That's all. Sometimes groups are created and there's no team associated yet. So don't go and create a new team and then have two of them called service requests. So then you're going to have to delete one and start over probably. So you can properly connect them and then you don't have to do any of that. Quick fun fact, if you just go into Teams and start there, it'll automatically do all this stuff for you. It'll create the group and the SharePoint site and everything else. So if you're going to do this from scratch, I would start in Teams, create a team, and it's going to create all that other stuff for you. Otherwise, you just might have to follow some guidance from IT. I always say this, follow the organizational governance. Whatever rules you have at your company, make sure you follow those and the steps. But this is the structure. And it's great because we don't have to worry about trying to connect all of these later. We have group-owned plans, we have group email addresses, we have a shared calendar, we have forms that are for the group. And I'm going to explain how we can map the forms to actually be owned by the group. A lot of times when somebody creates a form, it's theirs personally. Like the individual, they're the owner. But that doesn't give everyone permission to that form unless they change the settings, go in and do some extra work. And plus, if they move departments or leave the company, that form is in their name. We want that form to be associated with the whole group. That's going to be part of our mapping and building. We just want to make sure that works. So there are a couple things to pay attention to. But point being, we're going to use these. A OneNote notebook can sometimes be a good place to store stuff. This is a virtual 3-ring binder. Loop components. This is something that can be helpful as an add-on and to place inside of a tab so it's easily accessible. Loop components, we've talked about these a little bit before, and I don't want to get off track with loop too much, but I think it's important to understand that loop is just for inside the organization only. You can have a loop component show up in email, Teams on your phone, and it could be anything from a list to Kanban boards to whiteboards to paragraphs of information. It could be a good reference place. I think a Loop component is good to have for people who aren't in the office all the time, because then everything is syncing with the whole group. It's like a flexible virtual canvas. All right, let's get away from Loop for a sec. That's like an option one. Teams, I say if you're going to do what I'm talking about today, having a team in Teams is really important. So first, create a team in Teams. This is how we're actually going to build the workflow. Create it. I've done it ahead of time. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and I can remind you how to create a team. But always ask if you're supposed to. But it does create that Microsoft 365 group behind the scenes, and then you're going to get all the things we just saw in that graphic. The SharePoint site, that's for our file storage. Planner compatibility, the group mailbox, if we want to use that. Permissions model built in. And then, as you invite someone new to the team or someone leaves, you just put in their name in the group list, and automatically this is all going to work for us. Then we have some Loop sharing context. So this architecture that we set up in Teams is absolutely backed by the group. So it's our workspace and foundational. So Teams is going to be the arena for all of this. Teams is a very fancy chat app. That's what I say a lot of times. Like Excel is a fancy calculator. Teams is a fancy chat app, and it has the ability to connect to all these things. And you'll see what we can do in Power Automate to make it even cooler. So after creating the team, you'll likely want to create a plan in Planner. I would create it inside of the team, because when you do that, it's all included. So the plan is now group owned. It's not in To Do. To Do is for the personal part of checklists and tasks and stuff. Planner is for the group. So tasks, as I was mentioning, tasks are going to survive role changes. And then the whole design, like by design, everything is going to be visible. So this is exactly what Planner is for. Forms. So create the form, and then you can move it to whatever group that is, whatever team. The team and the group, they're going to be called the same thing in the SharePoint site. So at least there'll be that consistency. But when you create a form, typically if you just go into forms.microsoft.com and you're logged in and you just create a new form, get excited. This is great. This is all of our stuff. People just need to fill this out. That's fine. But again, it's not for the group. By default, it starts with a person, actually. And then to make it team owned, you can click the three dots and move it to a group. And that works. It's great because then you don't have to worry about, like, you don't own it personally. You're not worrying about some other individual owning it. But you can move that. It's even easier if you start it in the group. So just a tip on this. If you create the thing wherever, like into context to where you're going to use it, then it's probably going to connect perfectly. There are workarounds. If you already had a form created for service requests, for example, you could just move it to the group. And then the other thing is, you don't have to have it group owned. I'm just talking best practices. It's still going to work. And in fact, in Power Automate, it's a little bit easier to do the personal one. I just want to show you a few tips and tricks when we get in there. Now, Loop components, these are great to create and share. Check it out. You're going to see them everywhere. Anytime you see this little icon, you'll see it in Teams, Power Automate, certainly, in lots of different places in Teams and in the Microsoft 365 world, like Outlook and in the browser. But this is basically two ways we can use Loop. You can have a whole workspace, kind of tie it to these service requests in this example, or you can have Loop components, and they're smaller containers. One component might be a task list. Another component might be a voting table. You may want to vote on things and use Loop to do that. It's not going to be tied exactly, but you can make it shared if you create a tab or a page. And you can do that right in Teams as well. And we are going to demo this, I promise, just about through these slides. But I think it's good to just see this stuff. And I can include this, by the way. Power Automate, I mentioned this before. It's like glue. Forms captures the service request. Planner tracks it, makes it visible. Loop is going to hold the context. My example for loop components is you might have a loop component that has like some script you need to run or something you need to type in or codes or something like that. And it's portable, like you could look on your phone or your iPad or something. And then if it updates, somebody's going to update it in one place and it's going to update everywhere. So that context is actually fresh and a source of truth when we use it like that. And Power Automate is going to connect it all so that we can use those individually. Okay, let's see. I've got a few different flows that I want to talk about. And again, this will be a PDF that you can download. But flow number one, we're going to really be talking about the intake and then the visibility. So the request comes in, that's the intake, and then visibility, we need the whole group to see it. So we have a new service request to create that. The trigger is going to be when a form is submitted. Somebody accesses the form, could be from a QR code or it's shared in Teams or even just email. Somebody's going to fill that in, they hit submit. Immediately, the automation starts. Actions, the high level of this, we want to remove 2 memory points, right? Did someone see this? And then did we log it anywhere? Yes, because it's going to create a planner task. It's going to set the bucket to new requests. So we're going to, like for a pipeline type of thing, we're going to funnel everything into that new request bucket and then assign it to either a default owner or to a group and then post a message to a Teams channel about it. So then that's the visibility part. So from there, that's automated. The ball is rolling. There's some human intervention that needs to happen. When things start getting clicked and people start doing stuff, then other automation kind of picks up and completes it all the way through. So the trigger, again, is when a Microsoft form is submitted, the request is submitted. What I'm suggesting is go to Power Automate, and this is a built-in template. It's actually kind of a cool one. Takes a little bit of time to fully understand how it's working. This is my opinion, but I did lay everything out with examples, so I'm hoping that you can kind of take that and plug it in and make that work for you. But it's create a task and planner from Microsoft Forms and post a message in Teams. There's literally a template for this. Other people have needed to do it too, so it's there. And you've got things here. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. Oops, we went back one. There we go. We have the little red asterisk that, of course, means required, but we need to tell Power Automate, and we can use drop downs with one exception, which I'll show you, but the ID of the form you want to monitor. Usually, if it's a personal form, you can select it from the list. If it's a group form, we just need to actually paste the manual ID in. That's one thing that I was joking about earlier that is more like one of the only manual processes we have to do. Most of the stuff is just selected dynamically. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So then the form ID, the plan, which plan do you want to create? What do you want to call it? What team do you want to post the message to? And then what channel do you want to post it to? So you put all that data in there. And it's ultimately going to look like this. So this is a screenshot of Power Automate. And we can see the name of the flow. And this is the actual flow. It's kind of like a big drafting table. And then you put different actions on here as different cards. And then you can have all sorts of different things happen, like a split. When a new response is submitted, service request form. This is the parameters section. And see the 2 little double arrows? That moves it in and out. And you just click on the action, and then you're going to see all the parameters here. There are other tabs like settings, code view, and about. Code view is really good because, as I mentioned, this is the no code, low code type of workflow creation, and with templates too. But if you want to use Copilot, even Copilot chat, and go to code view and then paste that code into the chat and say, how's this look? Is this wrong? Whatever question you might have, and it will help you. Just as an added tip for even the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat that's included, I think you're going to find that to be helpful. So I put the form ID in, the response ID. I want to use dynamic content for that. I could write expressions, but it's way more knowing like code. You'll see what I mean when we get in there. I think it's easier to insert dynamic content. If you do that, it's going to give you a choice. You can see in this little flyout menu when a new response is submitted, and then there's the actual chunk of data, the response ID. You just select that from the list. Pretty easy. So when a new response is submitted, then we get the response details from this form, and then there's the ID of the form. And I'm going to show you, this is obviously what you can download in the PDF completed, but we are going to go through this. So here's the plan ID. So this is get the details and then create a task from that. These are all in order. So create a task. Here's our plan ID. Here's the title, service requests, and then think of this like a very fancy mail merge. If you've done a mail merge in Word, for example, or for table cards or letters or anything like that, check it out. We call it dynamic content here, but you place this in. What do you need, right? This might be the question on the form. See the little forms icon? And then like due date, we're going to map it. When does this, the rest is, need to be completed? We're going to put that value right here in the due date and time. And then the bucket ID, this is actually going to look back at the plan and planner, and it knows which buckets that we created, which swim lanes, so we can pick from a dropdown. So there are always additional advanced parameters you can pick. Right now it's showing all of them, but sometimes there might be like 40 of them. You don't want to show everything sometimes, but that can be a good way to get started. And the dynamic content like this, when you click on the little lightning bolt, you can pick. Like start date and time, you could put in the submission time. That's a timestamp when the new response was submitted. It'll put that in as a start time on your planner card. We will go through that, and then I'll show you how you can test it too. Another flow that you might want to do is the status to communication one. So maybe the planner task moved from one bucket to another. So move from like waiting somewhere else. We want to notify. So if the planner task is updated, the bucket, waiting. All right, post Teams comment or channel message. That would be cool. We could do that. We could mention the requester or the team. And then we just don't want things to be invisible. We're kind of treating Planner as our signal and not just the task list, because Planner is a list of tasks. We just put it in a nicer format that we can move around and stuff. But truly, we want it to be signaling. And yes, there are built-in notifications for Planner. And the built-in ones are great. It'll tell you when something is coming due, if it's overdue. But it's very plain. If you want to get like more nuanced, have it more custom, that's where Power Automate really comes in for us. So this is just an idea, because you can put additional things, and you could have it post to a Teams channel or chat and not just email. For the completion, the closure part, like we want it to be nice and clear, people to trust this process. We want to close the loop. That's going to be important. So the trigger might be when the task is marked complete. And yes, it will default send everyone an email if they have it turned on, by the way. This is going to override that if someone shut it off. So it's going to send a short email or a Teams message, and then you could update a list if you wanted to. This is another template. Send an email when a Planner task is completed. And it's using Planner and actually Outlook as well. So it's important to make sure that in Power Automate, you're actually connected. That means Office, it's calling it Office 365 Outlook, but your work account and then Planner. You've got to have that little green check. Have that set up. And then sometimes you could have gentle nudges, like if the task hasn't changed for 3 days, you could send a reminder. You could have this scheduled. You could do it daily or every week or something like that. You can have certain conditions. If a task isn't completed and the due date is either approaching in the next week or it's past, then at that point, send a reminder to the task owner. And then this just kind of makes it so not everything is urgent. You're not getting suddenly this big red message, this is due tomorrow. You're getting something that's a little more manageable. It's not coming from a person. So sometimes people feel better about that, and it addresses handoffs nicely. We're not relying on memory. Hey, by the way, this is due next week. I should start that. That's not happening. So this is also a recurrence that you can set up using different apps that it's going to connect to. And it's going to look something like this. Recurring, look at the list tasks, and then apply to each one to get the task, the details, look at these items, and then a true or false. If it's false, meaning there aren't any, then it just stops. If it's true, then we apply to each, get the user profile, send an email. And it kind of loops around depending on how many there are. So setting that up is fun. You can get some ideas for future flows. This could be error handling logic, certainly the labels part. I think when you design your form to actually be like that mail merge concept, then it can feel a lot better. And we can also integrate it with SharePoint, Power BI, even audit trails. This can be really helpful. So let's check it out. I have Power Automate open here. So this is the actual one. And we'll jump into that in a sec. I want to show you what I have open first. And then if you try this out on your own later, it might be a little bit easier. So I'm going to click here, and I'm just going to show I'm using Teams. And this is a channel called Request Pipeline. And we've got some practice stuff in here. Workflows, these are automated. Quick heads up, planner task, customize buckets is coming due. I put this in no rush, just a reminder so it doesn't sneak up on you. This is just a post to everybody on the service requests team. Here's a general channel and a request pipeline. I did have some other ones in here. What I did for this webinar, by the way, is if you're working, just for the automation part, if you're working with a channel like this a lot, click on the 3 dots and then have it show in favorites, which I've done already, so it's not showing up right there, but request pipeline. So then, no matter what, those could be all rolled up, so you can not have all these other ones down there, and it's just going to be up on the top. That just makes it easier to focus on it. So here's the request pipeline. We basically talk and post about service requests in the post tab. Shared, this is going to have any shared files that we might accumulate. We're not seeing any shared files right now for the Excel document, and I'll show you why in a minute. It's still in this team, just not in this subfolder. Notes, you can use this. Sometimes instead of Loop components, people will use OneNote. If you want that digital trapper keeper, go for it. It'll create one for each channel. This tab is the actual form that was created for the intake. And it looks like this while that's thinking. Here we go. This is the form. So you can see the icon. We have Power Automate is on one tab. I have the form on another tab in the browser. I have Outlook, so I can test. I have Teams. That's where we're going to use it. Each tab is going to have basically a link to the tabs I have in the browser. There we go. Here's one that's working for me right now. My point is, this tab is the actual planner, the plan and planner. That means for stickiness and for ease of use, you don't have to leave the channel to get to your Excel document, to get to your form, to get to anything. You can place them all up here and add custom tabs. This is the planner on its own tab. But my suggestion is, well, just put it here and then people can click around in these. Here's the document, the service request document. What does this one do? This is absolutely syncing in real time with this form. If somebody fills this form out, it's going to automatically put it in an Excel document. And then we're going to set up Power Automate so it automatically puts those plans in the planner. And then we take it from there. So it's all building and all connected. So this one's kind of complete. And what you would want to do is start with the team. So you would probably go up to the new area, just do new team, create that team. You might call this service request. I'm just going to call it service request pipeline, even though that was the name of the channel, just to keep it separate for a sec here. You can put a description, optional, and then the team type. This is important for part of this planning out and building this workflow. I would say leave it private. You have other choices. You can make it public, but that means anyone, I'll leave this up, anyone in your organization can join it. And that's good for some cases, but not things like this necessarily. People need permission to join. Public, anyone can join. Org-wide, everyone is automatically joined. They don't seek it out and add it. It shows up in their list. So the safest one is private. You have to come up with a first channel name. There's some information here if you want to figure out what your strategy is. Sometimes people will call it general or landing pad or even start here and be a good place for people to land. But it has to create one channel right away. So I'm just going to call this one landing pad just for fun. And ta-da, I'm going to create it. That's really how easy it is to create a team. Nice work. You can add members right away. You don't have to, though. So I'm going to skip that and check it out. I'm going to expand this so we can all see. There's my new team on the bottom. I'm just going to drag that up to the top so you can see it better. And this is in the browser, by the way. This will be the same here. This is Teams installed on my computer versus the browser. And check it out. There's my landing pad, first channel. Here's the other one I was showing you before. So it's synced. It's going to be the same everywhere. If I pick up my phone and look there, it's magically there too. So that's one part that's cool too, is having the ability to use a mobile app. All right. Now I'm going to go back to the browser though. Once that's created, you would probably want to, since a Microsoft 365 group has been created, you'll probably want to create your form. So I'm going to go to the Forms app. You can do that by clicking on the little icon here, searching for forms, but you could also just go to m365.cloud.microsoft. That's the main landing page. Or if you go to forms.microsoft.com, I'm going to show you the hard, long way. There we go. Forms. Forms.cloud.microsoft. That is the brand new URL. Forms.cloud.microsoft. It's going to take you here as long as you're logged in. You have workflow solutions built in now. This is new and very cool. But we have different sections here. This will be brief. My forms. And then instead of forms shared with me, scroll down a little bit and check out my groups. So my forms, think of that as like OneDrive, personal stuff. My groups, I don't see the service request group here. So I'm going to do show more. Ta-da. All that shows up now So including my new one here. Now I'm gonna skip it for time because I have it completed already. I just want to show you how to create that team. I'm going to go to the service request team that I had created, and I can see there's one form in there. Perfect. There it is. So the idea is either go to this group area first and then do new group form, and then you can go in and begin building that form. And it would look like this. I had one here already. And basically went in and did these types of questions. The idea is to build this brief summary of the request, and what I did task title, so form to planner title. Maybe add a new laptop for finance hire. Just put that in. What type of request is it? See, this is where you can put in different things. You can move these around. So this is going to help with labels. Describe the request. This is going to be in the notes section. How urgent. This can be our priority or some due date logic. Who's the request for? So things that just look like regular form responses are actually mapping to our Power Automate and Planner. And then which system, like here, when do you need this completed by? That's going to be the due date. So this is just an example, but I recommend testing it out. Go to preview. You can trial this out. Say, I'm going to say new copier on 3rd floor. Just for an example, what type of request is this? I'm just going to make some stuff up here. Please describe it. We need a copier to be set up. And just imagine people typing stuff in here, what it's going to look like. So think about that. How urgent? We'll say medium. Who is this request for? I'm going to say sales department. And when do you need it completed by? I'm going to put tomorrow. What system will do this? And submit. All right. That just submitted. That triggered everything. What that's doing, you can test on your mobile, by the way, is, I'm going to go back, collected a response. I'm going to go to view responses. We can see everything here. And this service request Excel document, this is synced to it. And it just added, well, it will in a sec here, added the next line. Each time somebody fills this out, it's going to map it all to this space here. Now, there it is. That took a sec, but there it is. It is synced. Now it's synced to the group. The reason we're going to do this, actually I'm going to go here and show you. Here's that exact form, and this is synced, so it will show up here as well. How do you add these tabs? Click on the plus, and then click on apps. For each of the each part that we're doing here, I'm going to add the form. It's existing. I want to choose the service request form. And then I have to pick, do I want to use it to collect responses? Do I want to show the results, or are we working on it? That's kind of cool too. So this can be used in other departments. So each department could put a tab to the service request form, collecting responses, and then post to the channel possibly. It's up to you. And basically what's happening is we save that. Anybody in another team or something could set this up and then kind of go through and fill that out. That's going to trigger the same automation. And this is what it would look like, apps, if we added planner. So I want to add that request planner, which I've already done. I just want to show you the actual building part. So it's going to do a little ad for itself, set up the tab. And then if you hadn't created the plan and planner yet, you could do that here. Because what I showed you just a moment ago was you can go to the forms website and then you can create it. And we can map it later. You could do all of that here in the tabs as you go. So I don't want that to be confusing. It's just a style thing. Do you like to create all the stuff before, or do you want to create it as you go? You can create a new plan from here or add an existing one. I'm going to add an existing one, which is, I'd call it Requests Planner. If you didn't have one, it'll tell you, and then you could just create your Requests Planner. Add that to the channel. And then now you're going to have the plan and planner up on top in the tab, and then you can get to it pretty easily. If I go to the shared tab, this is where our shared files are. We can click around and actually access our SharePoint if we want to, right from here. There are other fancy things that we can do, excuse me, with workflows here, but today we're just literally creating this stuff, the plan, the form, and then putting them up here on the top as apps. And there are quite a few different apps that you can use. It could be websites, which is a cool one. So these three are really what I was focusing on. If I wanted to add that Excel document to the top, I just click Excel, and then I can navigate through my file structure for the group, and then we're going to see that, there we go, here as service request 2 minutes ago. Yes, that's the one. So now I've placed it up there. You can do the same thing with loop components, and there it is, new copier on 3rd floor. So now that we've done that, the thing I think will be the best idea is to check out Power Automate. You can get there on the app launcher, or you could type it in search and find it, or go to makepowerautomate.com. It might ask you to log in again because it's kind of a slightly different environment, but I'm going to go to my flows and just show you what I have created already. Use the templates. That's what these are. So send an email when a planner task is completed. When I click, I can see a run history. I can click edit. I can navigate around with this. Oh, that's the send an email, create a task. This is the one I wanted to show you first. There we go. We've got some tests that actually worked. It tells you how much time is saved. And this is the other part. Make sure that these are all connected. Your connection references, I'm going to do see all. It's important to just make sure you're logged in. If you're not, it'll ask you. But I'm going to click edit and show you what I was showing you before. I'll zoom in a little bit. Maybe it's easier to see. So this is just like I said, a big drafting board. So you can zoom in and move it around with this panning hand, and then make sure that you've clicked on the little double arrow. If you see this, just click on a card or an action, and then you'll see the parameters. The form ID. Usually, when you do this, it'll say pick a form. And you click, and it'll be a list of forms. Well, we only have one form that we were trying to use for this. Try it again. Service request form. This is one that I had on the personal side. I could use that. But like I said, I wanted to use the one on the group side. This one. This is the part that we really have to pay attention to. Inside the URL. If I can give you one tip that'll help you do a group form, this is it. At the end of the URL, like just open the form, it says ID equals, and it's got this code, this long string right there. Right click, copy it. When you do that, and it's asking you for the form ID, it says pick a form, you're like, well, that's not the one I want the group when it's not showing up. Add it that way. Paste, I'm going to do Control V and just paste as plain text. Use that. And it's going to look like it's not working, but it does. That's the one thing. I know, it's weird. It's Power Automate. So when a response is submitted, from there, get response details. Same thing, form ID, and I X this so you can see. I want to get a response ID. So we're going to get the details, click, there's nothing there to choose. We can do two things. We can either use the slash, insert dynamic content, or just click on the little lightning bolt there. Now, it knows it cascades down. So we've attached that previous form and we know it's working because now when I go and try to put this ID in, I hit the little lightning bolt, I can see when a new response is submitted, get this unique identifier. Now, once we get that, we're going to create a task. So plan ID, make sure you're picking the right plan and planner. So this is the one we created. It shows up. No more manual copy pasting codes like that other one. That was the only part. The title, brief summary. I don't want to write all this code. You can, but if you put things in here dynamically, like a mail merge, how is it going to know the title? Well, we've got to put some dynamic content in. So I click on the lightning bolt and I find get response details. This is the previous one. If you do see more, it's going to show you all of the fields that are available. So what do I want the title of this planner card to be? I want it to be, please describe, I could say brief summary of the request. Right, because that would have been this title. So they're mapping to each one. Let's go back. Looks good. Now the bucket ID, I want that to go to the new request bucket. Now the reason it's showing these is because it knows, since I connected to that other planner, that these are my buckets. New request, backlog, in progress, and so on. So you can add new buckets. If you don't see one you want, just add it. And then it'll show up on the dropdown. You could do start date and time. You could do due date and time by clicking on the dynamic content and then finding it. Like when do you need this completed by? That's the form question. We're going to put that in so it maps to the card. And then assign a user. I'm going to default assign me. I could put in the group's shared email address if I want to. But for this one, I did just me. So it creates a task. Then it's going to post a message in a chat or channel. So check this out. My parameters. How do you want it to post? I want it to post as a Flowbot. So it just calls itself workflows. You could have it, depending on how you have it set up, as a user, as the user, but sometimes that can feel confusing. Using a Flowbot is pretty straightforward. Like this is the workflow. Or if you set up a studio agent, you could do that. But you can post it in a channel or a chat or group chat. So it doesn't have to be the whole group. Which team? Service request team. There are other ones that were created here. What channel? I want it to be on the request pipeline channel. So those show up in the dropdown. And then you can type in here what you want to show up in this team's channel post. I have a new task created, name, due date, urgency, and description, who's it for. So due date, look, there's the code. Outputs, get response details, and then it has a code. Well, again, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just click the lightning bolt, and I'm going to go find, well, the due date from the response details, that's going to be when do you need this completed by. And if it's not showing here, just click see more, and then you're going to have other choices. This could be for labels. This can be for urgency. Anything you can think of, try mapping in. Again, this was just an example. I'm going to say, what do you need to complete it by? And that's going to be kind of like that mail merge form letter. Make sure you're connected and stuff, and then save it. Now, the reason I'm showing it kind of complete here. It's just for time, obviously. And there we go. Your flow is ready to go. Recommend testing it. To test it, you can hit test and then manually do it, or automatically if there's been a recent one that worked, you can have that run. But if you do it manually, that's cool too. You just hit test. It's going to sit there like this. All we have to do is go, and fill this out. And say, I need a new mouse. I'm just going to put that in caps so it stands out. I lost mine. We're going to be a very basic user here. How urgent is this? Urgent. Who's it for? John Hood. I need it completed by today. And it's going to be other mouse. Submit. This is good to test. So it did it. Now I'm going to go back to the flow. And it went through 0 seconds, 0.3 seconds, 0.3, and then 3 seconds it took. So it was successful. And I can see all that here. If I go to the plan and planner, of course it is in the back end. Here is the new card in the new request area. Due date, who it's for, me. We can map other things here if we want to. This was just for an example. And it did that automatically for me. If I go in and work on this, like I moved it to in progress or something, or even completed, I can hear my phone going off actually, because it's sending stuff around. We're going to see, I'll come back to that in a sec. We're going to see all these steps work. I'm going to go back. And I can see that succeeded. So that's good. Just as a test. So I've put it there. We have other flows that we're kind of showing. I'm going to go to the teams. You can see there's a new teams activity. Oh, Dave did something there. I'm going to go to the request pipeline posts. Automatically, new task created. Here's the name, due date, urgency, description, and who's it for. Now, everybody on the team has immediate visibility. People can react. We can talk about it in a private space. This automation is actually built in. Remember, have that form up on the top. Multiple people can do that. I'm going to do the one final thing. I know we're just about out of time here. But when you go to create in Power Automate, and I'll include this as a PDF of how to do this, check out the templates. Absolutely. Just go in and search for one. For example, the send an email when a planner is completed. It's going to bring you through all the steps. Make sure that you're connected. And then when you go in and create it, you're just basically going to see these actions there. And then you can click and fill in service requests, request planner, and then send an email to whoever. And then this is what that email is going to look like. If you want to show all parameters, just you can CC, you can add attachments, you can have importance, you can really fine tune these. But today is kind of a lot. I understand that. We talked about all sorts of different things building up to it. All right, Cassie, I'm so sorry it took up so much of your time here, but I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you everyone for attending. Again, I'm going to try to hand a lot of this to you so you can try to follow along. But conceptually, I think people are going to be really happy if you set this up. Thank you.
Awesome. No worries, John. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone for joining today. I just want to let you know we will be sending out an email for our next webinar, probably sometime in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. And again, we are recording this, so it will be available on the website shortly. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again. I'm Cassie from Virtual IT, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.